and then covering the explosions and the fire as if it was done by the person they're trying to kill and all the people attached to him. Well, we're going to have James on for that because it's a little bit of VP, it's a little bit of the union strike I want to talk to him about, and more. I mean, we could have spent the entire week talking about the path of hurricane destruction. Asheville's getting a lot of attention, but there are so many small little towns that are just gone. And it's hard to understand just how bad things are. I get the hint that things are far worse than the media is letting on. There's no curiosity in the media, but some of the reports are so horrible that I almost hope that there's some exaggeration going on. So I don't know how that pops up along the way. We'll see. There'll probably be more opportunities over the course of the next few days of broadcasts that we can do that. And then in the second half of the show, I think Frank Zell is going to be popping by because there's going to be a little bit of a true crime element to the second hour. Not only do we have the attorney, the Diddy attorney, Buzbee, with his list for the ages. Are we getting one list or another? We didn't get Epstein. Are we getting Diddy? Because it's the same kind of operation. It's in different branches, different departments. We'll talk about that a little bit. But there's another thing, and I'm sure you'll start seeing it a little bit more now. But especially now that it's been covered by people like Colin Rugg and whatnot, there was this murder of this judge in Kentucky that is super strange, super mysterious, and I want to get around to that because, of course, whenever stuff like this catches the attention of the Zells, there's usually a little bit more than just what's on tape, and that's what we're going to have in the second half. Now, it all has to wrap up around 8:53, 8:55 at the latest, because at 9 o'clock I'll be going live with Matt Christensen on his channel for the Wednesday night spot that I've had, first Wednesday of the new month for the last however many months. But Blonde's not in tonight now that the whole Tenant Media thing is gone. Blonde and Matt went back to their Wednesday night programming. She's not in tonight, so I'm filling in for like the first 40 minutes. Who knows? That will be broadcast. That will be syndicated on quitefrankly.tv. So if you're watching there already, you don't have to go anywhere. The programming will kick right back in with me live with Matt Christensen. And then as soon as that is done, John Carroll from his engineering post in the Midwest is going to be able to switch over to after hours programming right afterwards. So if you're watching on quitefrankly.tv, you literally don't have to leave for hours. You can walk around with it in your back pocket, listen to it, whatever the hell, but we got you set up for the whole night if you want to be that way. So, all right, you guys ready? Let's get nice and kicked off and do our thing on this October 2nd, 2024. What do I want to say? I don't know. Blue Monster Prep. Get in touch with Blue Monster Prep. I think, and I know that a lot of you already have. The weeks like that we are experiencing now, both abroad and at home, are reminders that you just don't know. You just don't know. So, BlueMonsterPrep.com, use promo code Frankly. There's also QuiteFrankly.gold. There's Quite Frankly merchandise. Quite Frankly flamethrower. Get all that on the affiliates page on QuiteFrankly.tv. All right. So moving over to our grab bag, I have a short one here tonight because I want to bring BCP on as quick as possible. Here we got it from the New York Post. A pop-up exhibit, 43-foot naked Nevada Trump effigy vanishes after roadside ruckus. You know, I gotta say about liberals, they're a strange bunch. I know they like to project weirdness onto other people, and I guess everybody is weird in their own special way, okay? We are, after all, just animals, and animals just form habits and whatever. Nobody's perfect. We're all kind of venal and, But, there's something about liberals where they just like stripping people naked. They just want somebody to be naked for some reason. And especially someone who they project so much hatred onto, like Donald Trump, who they project so much grotesqueness They like seeing grotesque naked bodies, and they, as a humiliation, everything's usually very sexual, humiliation based. All that, they love that kind of weird shit. They love it. Then again, you've seen all the pride parades in San Francisco, people playing around in the pee-pee pool. I mean, there's a lot of that going on, but there is it's just nuts. Not even 48 hours after word got out that a 43-foot tall nude effigy of Donald. How long did it take? The effort to even make this thing. Where the hell is it? Give me a. There you go. They have to blotch out the wee. The effort. But for most on Saturday and Sunday, a mile or two off Interstate 15, a few hundred yards from the always bustling Love's travel stop just north of Sin City, the statue had people stopped and staring. But the trickle of spectators, just 27.5 miles from the towering Trump International Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip, leering at the lewd likeness of the former president, couldn't rival the thousands of supporters Trump commands in person at political stops. Although it was hung well near the... They're doing this. It's the New York Post. This is all they do now. Although it was hung well near a busy north-south highway connecting Las Vegas to Salt Lake City and points north, the figure was not easily seen from the roadway. That's probably a good thing, since the uncensored effigy had the potential to stop traffic and even cause accidents. Well, that's just what they do. You know, that's in and out between... They probably all left the orgy dome at Burning Man, and they went right into constructing this 43-foot tall effigy. What the fuck's going on this shoulder? Anyway, strangeness. But last night was pretty interesting. Very interesting. Oh, you want one last thing? You want to talk about strange and off-putting and all that stuff? I know we mentioned on Monday that yesterday was going to be Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday. Well, he made it. It's 100th birthday. He made it. And geez Louise, don't let anyone tell you that this man expressed some level of excitement or about anything recently, let alone, most of all, excitement over voting for Kamala Harris. There is no way that this man could have expressed that. It's physically impossible. He looks like death warmed over. I have seen some very spry 100-year-olds in my life, and God bless them, because I never want to reach a Jimmy Carter 100. Not interested in reaching a Jimmy Carter 100, okay? Not totally comfortable with the idea of death altogether at the moment, but Jimmy Carter 100, I don't want that. Like, seriously, I believe it is actually not even appropriate to take pictures of someone in that kind of condition, let alone say that he's out. He's in a way stumping for Kamala Harris. My gosh. Anyway, last night we were watching the VP debate. What can be said? I don't know. I have a couple of clips. We can do that. The moderators, though, I really hope that it becomes commonplace for people to refuse to attend these debates at the networks. I really do hope from now on these debates are just skipped out on altogether. I mean, it's just horrible. It's so pathetic. David Muir, ABC, from August when we were watching that one. David Muir, he was just as a host and a moderator, he was just as, dare I say, and I rarely say this, cunty. He was just as cunty, okay? But he put on at least his professional man of integrity act. I'm a newsman. These shrill network girls have no control over themselves. They have no control over themselves whatsoever. None whatsoever. Listen to that. Hold on. It was like at first, there was just one thing with the fact checking here that they started freaking out. But what was the other thing? I caught and then I had to make sure that everybody else heard the same thing there too. At first, the moderator, Vance, was talking about how all the open border policies down at the border, which is just like when they talk about common sense, they're talking about how do we process illegal aliens faster and call them asylum seekers and all that shit. And he was talking about how children are disappearing from the custody of DHS. They're not traceable. They're being abused. They're being turned into drug mules and all that stuff. one of the moderators, I don't know who the hell it was, they're both equal. They actually they went for comment to Tim Walz, and in the comment asking him for a rebuttal for they projected onto Vance that he had said that Kamala Harris was using the children as drug mules at the border. I could not believe what I was hearing. He's describing the conditions of what's happening to people down there with this kind of lawlessness and the human toll that it takes. They actually, in real time, asked Tim Walz to reply to Vance's accusation that Kamala Harris herself, it's like Comet Pizza all over again. Hillary Clinton, Pizzagate's all about Hillary Clinton, personally running a pizzeria. In real time, they tried this. In real time. Anyway, listen to this. This was incredible. Here's from the Vigilant Fox. At one point, Vance's microphone was cut off by CBS News when he began refuting their fact check on the subject of Springfield, Ohio, and Haitian immigrants. CBS News said that they had more topics to get to, but the apparent reality is that they were getting uncomfortable with Vance confronting their fact check head on.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to.
So much. I had so much. Oh, gosh. The cumbersome amount of stuff to get to.
Senator,
those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to.
Well, your mics are cut. You get what's happening here. Understand what's happening now. So that it was great. It was great in that respect. It really was. Thankfully, JD, and I don't really know too much about this guy, and I am assessing this purely from a network television entertainment perspective. Thankfully, he is very articulate, and he tossed these three hyenas around the room without breaking a sweat. Actually, it was two hyenas and one bumbling circus clown. One bumbling circus clown, and the gaffes coming out of Walz. I mean, you can't even call some of them gaffes. Saying that you befriended school shooters is, I mean, listen, that's a lifetime sentence as far as the internet goes. That's it. You're never living that one down. Listen to this. Whatever the hell he meant to say, it doesn't matter.
With those Sandy Hook parents, I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time.
It doesn't matter what he said after that. It doesn't matter. You know the rules? That's not how any of this works. You can't recover your life after that. Anyway, BCP is on with us in just a couple of seconds. Let's get right into it. Please share the show far and wide. I'd love to be introduced to all of your friends and family who haven't seen me prior. And if this is your first night hanging out with us, may it be one of many. Okay, let's go.
Have you any idea how successful censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay?
Man. Oh, is this your first time on with us this year? No. Second time? First?
I believe it's the second time this year.
Okay. So then how the hell's life been? Oh, yeah, it is. It is the second time. You were doing a little bit of traveling. How has everything been with you in the last few months?
Been great. Got a new presence here on YouTube and expanding a podcast. I had a goal of visiting 50 countries before I turned 50, and that's why I was traveling. I hit my 50th country about 3 months ago. I went to Iceland with my son, and we drove the Golden Circle. So it's been a great year so far.
That's wonderful. You want to know something? You look great, too. How much weight have you lost?
Yesterday I weighed, okay, first of all, people don't really have an idea of scale. I am a very tall individual. I'm 5'3", and I got up to 178. I was 178 the beginning of last year of 2023. Yesterday, I weighed in at just under 143 pounds.
104, good for, listen, I can see it, man. I can see it. First of all, it's the way that the suit is fitting. You look dapper, but I mean, you look slim. You look great. I had to ask, so I knew it wouldn't. Yeah, I knew it wouldn't. I knew it wouldn't.
I've become a gym rat. I can't believe it. I become a gym rat. I'm in 4 times a week, and I've got a trainer that kicks my ass 2 of those days. So it's been great.
Yeah, but to do what you're doing with 30 some odd pounds, you're also eating right too. So congratulations. I know that takes a lot of work and consistency, and there you have it. All right, so let me ask you a little bit on this. With the debate last night, boy, in my opinion, James, Walz was pretty bad, and he actually seemed like a nice old man at times, which is why I say I wouldn't be surprised if Dems would come for him for being too peaceable and civil with Vance, because, I mean, he was not acting like he was debating Hitler's right-hand man. That's for sure. What were some of your thoughts?
Well, he came off first of all, they sold him as affable. That's one of the talking points. Jovial. Those are some of the words that I saw in mainstream media when Kamala Harris had announced that he was her running mate. So if that was the role that he was supposed to play, he played it well. As far as the bumbling, affable, Uncle Tampon Tim. So yeah, and then he was out of his league. Now here's the thing: I had low expectations from him because they've been trying to call JD Vance weird. They've been trying to call us Trumpsters weird. And then he's weird. I mean, you talked about the memes before I came on, and I missed the Columbine memes, but the memes I have seen are him coming out looking like Chris Farley. I probably would have made a better Chris Farley last year with the 30 pounds more on me. But, when he's coming out and just like, I mean, I just freaking love those memes of him. So he was a little bit more reserved this time around than that. But yeah, he came out, and then I brought this out on my show. Within 15 seconds of him opening his mouth, he screwed up. 15 seconds. He confused Israel and Iran, and he did it twice in the first 30 seconds. The guy came out of the box, came flubbing and with gaffes. And you know what? We already have an old, supposedly affable guy in Joe Biden. We don't need another one called Tim Walz.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things where you understand why censorship and appeals to emotion are so important to these people, because everything else was just a result of just coming from very weak positions on issues. For example, with guns, Tim Walz essentially agreed that with the fact that the vast majority of gun violence is suicide, which is a mental health issue, but then ridiculously falls back on the notion that it's just the presence of guns that leads to the suicide, as if there aren't 10,000 other ways people could and would kill themselves instead. So Tim Walz comes out on the other end looking like he'd just rather see 20,000 more people hang themselves every year, and then the other 10,000 gun deaths, which is mostly gang-related, we don't even talk about it all. I mean, the whole thing, I understand that we are a little bit more fine-tuned to seeing those nuanced points, and I understand you have to keep reminding yourself along the way when you're watching these productions on television that the wider audience, there's demographics of people, even those who vote generally alongside of you, they're seeing things different than we do, and I don't know. I always hope that people are getting the bigger picture and the finer points, but we just got to take what we can at this point.
Well, one of my favorite things is following up on that when Tim Walz says, in Finland, there's no school shootings and they have a lot of guns. I thought that was, thank you, Tim Walz, for making our point for us. And speaking of Finland, that was like the 44th country that I visited this year. And let me tell you what they don't have. They don't have this mass migration. Finland is still like 90% Finnish, and they, I don't know. I enjoyed the country. It was spring, but I don't think I want to be there when it's cold. And he almost opened them. Had it been a true debate, they could have actually, if it wasn't structured where they had the talking points that CBS wanted to bring in and what have you. But if it was an organic debate, JD Vance could have said, that's interesting that you would talk about Finland because Finland doesn't have the mass immigration. They don't have all of this, all other problems that actually contribute to the actual gun violence, like you said, gangs and crime and what have you. So I was laughing especially hard because I was in Helsinki for about 4 days and didn't see many immigrants. It's interesting.
Whether it be guns or whether it be any other debate about socialism and any kind of universalized program that government would implement for its citizens and things like that, usually leftists in the United States will point to small little ethno states in Europe as success stories. And it always comes back to this. Like, well, you guys are always, talking about the progressive stack of race and sexuality and the nuclear family and all that stuff. And the best examples of success for your ideas come from countries that are more racially, culturally homogenous than anything you find over here. It's like what kind of point you're trying to make? We're trying to just at least say let's leave people free enough to go out there and try things and not be on the hook for other people around them because we're not that homogenous. There's room for everybody to be able to go out and ply their trade and try to make something for themselves and not be on the hook for other people's failures. That's a little bit easier to sell when pretty much everybody is your cousin. You kind of want to. It's not like that over here. So they keep going to places as examples that would, normally if we went there, they say, why? Why do you think Finland's a good model? Because it's more white? They would call us racist for bringing up Finland. Anyway, so that's that. You want to watch the Tiananmen Square thing with me? Because this was painful.
Let's do that again. I will try not to put myself in his shoes because it was painful.
This is so bad. This was so bad. Okay, so they asked them. I give it to CBS for throwing these in there, but I watch this one point right here. Hold on, just in the beginning. It's about 2.5 minutes long.
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen.
Right there. You said you were in Hong Kong. He knew where it was going. He put his head down. You know what that head down says to me, James? Shit.
Defeat.
It says shit. I love how he pretended to go down to his note. Like, what note could you be writing down at that point? You're just writing a one-syllable word down. That's all it is. You pick the word. All right, let's go.
Well, can I say one thing, Frank?
Governor,
yes.
I'm no body language expert, but that usually that sometimes means, okay, what did I prepare or what's my talking point for when this question comes up? So as opposed to looking up to look at a real memory, he's looking down to look for a fabricated one.
If that's the case, then what he wrote down was pretty terrible. He had a lot of time to fabricate something better. Let's listen to this.
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service.
Okay.
I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people working on things.
We're a minute and 25 seconds into this, James.
And no answer. And no answer.
Like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything, many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
So there's your 2 minutes of absolute nonsense. And I give it to NBC, they know, or CBS, whatever. If they let this go, they're not going to hear the end of it. They have to come back around to the actual question again, and then we get this final 20 seconds.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, man.
Yeah, he spends the first 2 minutes kind of just dancing around. Oh, I'm dancing around. Ooh, I am from Nebraska, and we used to ride bikes. You know, that's like he got confused because that's their talking point for, you know, we are middle class people where we cared about our green lawns. That was Tim Walz's version of I care about my green lawns. I used to ride my bike in Nebraska. So he does his Tim Walz weird tampon Tim dance, and then he lost the rhythm somewhere. And then they come back and JD Vance broke the fourth wall last night. I enjoyed it. You know, he's become a meme himself. He's like,
I love it.
Yeah, and so you can see him there. He's like, all right, Tim, are you going to answer the question? And then, you know, we know what he meant to say. I messed up on the dates. I was just there during that whole entire season.
But he keeps messing up on some pretty important dates and circumstances.
Basic stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he says, oh, you know, I learned governance. Now, like I mentioned, this has been a year full of travel for me. I ticked off a lot of boxes. I was in Tiananmen Square about 4 months ago. And I can tell you, I talked to Chinese people, you know, once again, love the culture, love the people. Since I'm not going back to, I can now say, well, they know me, they vetted me, but I do not like the CCP. How do you learn about governance? Teaching, I mean, even the answer was piss poor, right? But I learned about governance. You learn about governance from China. So what you're telling us is all the things that we think about you being China, Tim, are true. Because shouldn't you learn about governance from being in this great republic, the United States of America? Why would you need to learn about governance going to China unless you just reveal to everyone the truly treasonous, traitorous, Marxist rat bastard that you really are?
Yeah. I know. I saw one of the top comments underneath this video clip was a quote, It says, regarding my China claim, I'm proud of my service growing up in Nebraska and riding a bicycle. And that's essentially the answer there. Let me just throw this out because I want to make sure that we get a couple more topics in before we end tonight. This had to be another reason why they traded up with Biden with the coup. I know that with his current physical state, they had to do something at some point. I mean, obviously they have all of the tools to be able to force him into a second presidency if they really wanted to go all out with it. But I mean, that doesn't mean that he would physically be able to last another 4 years. So this was coming one way or another. But think about this. If Trump had they knew this, if Trump had another round of debates with Joe Biden in August and Vance was paired with Kamala Harris last night, I think a Biden reelection would actually have been an impossible thing to spin in any believable way. They definitely figured that Kamala and ABC versus Trump could yield slightly better optics than Joe Biden just powering down on live television again. But it's clear it wouldn't have mattered what kind of earrings Kamala Harris would have worn if her opponent was J.D. Vance. He was unflappable.
Yeah, and it's funny because it should have been Shapiro, right? They accuse President Trump of being an anti-Semite, which of course is ridiculous. And it should have been Shapiro, but we can't have Shapiro. We've got to have China Tim, Tampon Tim in there. And as I'm watching this, I'm going, obviously JD Vance is the more skilled debater, is the better orator. And going into before the debate happened, I did a segment on my podcast and on my show about what to expect from the debate, and that JD Vance would have a command of figures, of numbers, of facts, of information, etc., and that he would do his research to the point where there was one question where JD Vance, when they're talking about abortion, said, "I read the law," and he's trying to break down the law, and Tampon Tim doesn't even know the own law of the state in which he signed that law as governor of Minnesota. So we knew it was going in.
You're talking about the abortion? You're talking about the abortion?
Yeah,
bill?
about the abortion. Yeah. I knew it was going to be lopsided. So I'm sitting there going, man, how different would this have been had it been Shapiro versus J.D. Vance? I mean, that just came to my mind when I said, well, there we go. The projectionists in the Democrat Party calling everyone that doesn't agree with them as anti-Semitic actually pulled an anti-Semitic move, and they could have had a whole different debate here going on.
Yeah,
that's in my mind.
Yeah, and and on that very specific topic of abortion in particular, I know, I think that Vance did a decent job cleaning a little bit of that up with the healthcare thing too. He cleaned up a little bit more because there was a little bit that was not too well done in August with Trump. But I know people find themselves in uncomfortable positions in life, but I'm sorry. I would love for somebody just to say, and I know they can't, because when you're up there, you have to appeal to a larger audience, much larger than I'm looking to go out there and capture, obviously. But personally, I don't care about random women's interstate quest for abortion, okay? Looking for an abortion clinic across numerous, I don't care about it. An anecdote about incest in Nebraska does not void out the 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights. I understand it's a very sensitive issue, and it used to be treated like one. Now it's almost like a rah-rah kind of a rallying cry. Boy, everybody loves it's sick what abortion has become as a social issue. But, what is it going to take for someone to coldly cite the Constitution and refuse to engage in appeals to emotion on this issue? Vance and Trump, they got around to talking about how this is something that the states need to come up with. But it almost sounds to me like, in their opinion, we feel this is better for the states to go and take this up one by one, because each state has a different culture. It's really up to what the people are comfortable with, blah, blah, blah. It's not about what they feel. It's the 10th Amendment. It's just a reminder that no matter how decent we get it sometimes, the current parties, both parties, are never going to go all the way with what really needs to be done here. They're never going to go all the way.
It's interesting. I saw Don Jr. having a back and forth with Caitlin Collins of CNN, and he actually gave major props and kudos to J.D. Vance. He said he handled topics that we don't do well in as Republicans better than most Republicans do our core talking points and policies, like war and perhaps the economy or whatever. And so, yeah, this is an emotional issue. And this is something that you're going to get on pathos. Like it's really hard to get people logically on this one. And look, everyone that knows me knows that I am very Christian. I'm very, very pro-life. I understand that there's a complexity in this issue. And think about this. It really is a non-issue because Roe v. Wade has now, it's been overturned. It's back in the states, and it is not, for all intents and purposes, a federal issue unless Congress takes it up. And the simple way would have been, if people were educated, would be, look, we could talk about abortion, but it's now back in the states. And if it's going to be a federal issue, it's not going to come from the executive branch. It's going to have to come from the legislative branch. I am currently a legislator as a senator, but I'm not running right now. This is not a senatorial debate. This is a vice presidential debate for the executive office. We don't need to talk about this subject. It's a non-subject for all intents and purposes of what we're debating here.
Yeah, and it's even bigger than that. And it's even bigger than that, James, because we're talking about a constitutional amendment that would be needed. It's not about whether or not you can get two houses of Congress to come in with a simple majority and a president to support it with a final signature. It is not a function of Congress. That's why it is left to the states. So, I mean, to make this a federal issue is to come up with a way to make this into an amendment. And you're never going to amend the Constitution, not with this kind of split in the country. Let's talk a little bit about other things that are going on in the country, because we can go on with this.
By the way, Frank,
yeah,
this is so fun. I'm glad you have me on again. Thanks again. It's been too long. And to all of the, quite frankly, family, big hug to all of y'all. Appreciate you being here. I can feel your energy. I'm not looking at the chat, but I can feel the energy. I hope that you guys love this country as much as Frank and I do, that you love the Constitution as much as we do. And if you don't know the Constitution, I don't know it as well as Frank does. If you don't know the Constitution, just a basic framework, do yourself a solid, do yourself a favor, pick up one of those little small, like, Constitution for fourth graders and review it. Part of the problem we have with American voters is, mine's over there, is people don't know the basics of the supreme law of the land. Everyone's talking about we're upholding, and I've taken an oath to the Constitution, and then they say unconstitutional, moronic, dumbass things come right out of their mouths, and it blows my mind.
And first of all, I love having you back on too. It's always good. The energy is
getting off my soapbox.
No, the energy is always great when you're on, and we have to schedule in a few more. You should actually call in for a little bit on election night too, if you're free, because I'm starting to put together my revolving door of guests. But it's true. It's true. You're not going to get that kind of understanding of what we are living through right now and why things are screwed up by just engaging in party politics from a red versus blue, us versus them mentality. That is it's a horrible thing, because the Republican Party is way off base as well. It's a left-wing party, and you have to, we play the game every once in a while to see if we can put a notch in the belt in the right direction and tighten up a little bit. But I don't know. In the long term, it's a very, very murky future after Trump. I can't wait to see how the world forms and reforms and reshapes over the course of the next 4 to 6 years. But let's talk about this. Have you covered anything going on with Hurricane Helene, especially the mainstream coverage of it versus what is coming out from the people on the ground, because it's pretty harrowing. And just today I saw Kamala Harris dangle a $750 carrot in front of people, saying we're going to give you all $750. Oh, we know you lost everything, including loved ones, but here's less than $1,000. Meanwhile, we're sending off billions, shoveling billions into the furnace that is the Middle East and Eastern Europe. So let me know some thoughts you have on this.
Yeah, it's funny because I saw that just before coming on. I had a Zoom meeting right before coming on this. And yeah, what I got the feeling was, I don't know if I'll be able to do it because I'm short, but I got the feeling it was like them going, okay, let's see, what do we have? What do we have here?
Butterflies.
Here's some lint. Here's some lint for you peasants. Let them eat cake. Let them eat cake as we send billions and billions to the war machine, to the meat grinder over in Ukraine. And we knew this was going to happen. We saw this already. Did we forget about Hawaii already? Did we forget about Hawaii already with their $700 odd? What was that? $750 as well? $725, $780?
Yeah.
You know, so like this came as no surprise. Now, I've been trying to research the numbers. I'm seeing the numbers actually, they've been saying 100, a couple hundred people. I'm seeing that there's over 1,000 people missing or dead. So they're downplaying this, and it seems odd. Here's what I don't understand. Once again, I'm not an evil, satanic Marxist, so I'm never going to fully understand these people. But my goodness gracious, they said it in the past, never let a crisis go to waste.
Yeah,
this is a total missed opportunity. This is an opportunity this would have been an opportunity for Tim Walz, for Kamala Harris, for Biden, for the Democrats to shine. I mean, they love giving crap away. Like, why wouldn't they do that here? Especially since, look, I'm thinking like an evil person here. Even make a promise that you're not going to keep. It's only 30-something odd days. Why wouldn't they even just go, we're going to be there. We're going to help you. But these people are so evil and they hate us so much. I love your show with the movie Ants. Like, we are nothing. We are nothing to these people. Joe Biden said, last week or over the weekend, we already gave them money. We knew this was coming and we already allotted money. And then he says, after President Trump starts a GoFundMe, I really wish he would have said send go, but that's neither here nor there. He said, he's not in office right now, so he can't promise anything. And he rallies the people $1 million within a couple hours. And then I looked 24 hours later, it was over 3 million. So what does Joe Biden do? He copies that and says, give to the relief effort. This bastard just gave and keeps, bending over so that, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Frank, but since I've lost weight and I hit 50 years old, I'm not going to drop F-bombs. I don't use the S word, but I'm a little bit saucier and crankier than I used to be.
Why do you think that is? You think you have a new lease on life?
No sugar, no very little sugar, very little carbs. I've got massive amounts of energy, and I'm always sore because I'm doing strength training.
Good.
But this is Biden just ready to bend over, doggy style, for Ukraine and for everyone else internationally coming with their hand out. I feel like I'm reading Oliver Twist or something, and he's willing to give everything, but for our own people, he's like not literally, because that figuratively saying, let them eat cake. We gave you enough money. You people help them. This doesn't even make any sense politically, because this would be an absolute slam dunk, or at least this would be them,
I understand what you're saying. I understand.
It doesn't make any sense. They must hate us so much that they can't even hide it.
I totally understand. It is baffling in that kind of way. What is with the aloofness? Is it just because it's an inconvenient time of the year? But going out there and being visibly involved in the recovery in a major disaster that could double as campaign activity for somebody like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. So it is pretty baffling there, especially since we get a lot. I had this one person over here just reminded me today that it's not just Asheville, and Asheville is a Democrat city in North Carolina. It trends Democrats. So, you know, it's not just like, hey, this is a, you know, it's only Republican place, but there are other places. I hear these smaller communities like Linville, Fosco, Banner Elk, Heaton, Spruce Pine, of course, they're just gone. And you would think that, I mean, I'm even thinking about from that standpoint, strategic standpoint of, you can go out there stumping on a platform of climate change. And I know some people are doing that. They never truly let that all go, but it is crazy, the blackout that's going on. I've seen a lot of independent helicopter pilots that have been getting into trouble with law enforcement because they're out there, doing recovery runs that are supposedly unauthorized. It's like, who cares? It's very strange what's going on with this, and I wonder as well.
Yeah, I covered that story on my show this afternoon about this. You know, the one you mentioned. This pilot goes out there, former law enforcement with his son, helping people, and they threaten him with arrest, and then they do some sort of, I don't know, it's technically called a limited airspace. That, you know, they limit the airspace or whatever. It's baffling. You know, I don't have any more comment to make on this one. I just don't understand. It's a missed opportunity. But once again, I think that their negative energy, their hate is it's so powerful that even when they have an opportunity here to win people over, they can't even see it. Look, with Biden and Harris and Tim Walz, the Democrats are not even on their bench team. They're not even, you know, I don't have a sports analogy for this. They have the people that got rejected for the tryouts right now, you know, so it's absolutely ridiculous. And I just don't understand it. It's a missed opportunity, unless, of course, they don't care because they've got something planned and it doesn't matter anyway. And that's what kind of gives me a little bit of the and people go like, oh, James, have faith. Yes, I have faith, or what have you. But that gives me a little bit of pause. I won't say the heebie-jeebies, but it has me thinking, what the hell do these people have up their sleeve?
I'm freaked out.
They seem so they are so confident in whatever they have planned that they don't even care that we can see behind the false Wizard of Oz facade. It has me concerned. It has me concerned. I'll just say that.
It should. It's not. It's one thing to be concerned and to be alerted and to be preparing and to keep yourself focused in a time where, I mean, to be able to sense danger and to really kind of project where this all might be going after you've established the characters and the patterns and everybody's what's at stake for each faction out there. There's nothing wrong with feeling concerned. You know, even in your faith. I mean, we believe in a life after this one, and that's something that gets us, you know, that really charges up the warrior spirit. Even though sometimes things over here seem hopeless, we know that there's work to be done before, you know, so you can leave something behind. The work always has to be done. But, you know, to acknowledge that we are on some pretty thin ice right now, and the ice is getting thinner. And there's been a lot of really crazy promises made by people who've already done some really daring things to us over the last 4 years. It makes you wonder what the hell's going on. And the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about the concept of October surprise and what that actually means these days, because last night's debate wasn't going to change anybody's vote. You know, last night's debate was not going to produce an October surprise that changes the electoral outcome of what we are going to see in early November. An October surprise is a Black Swan-esque event, you know, life-altering event that kind of puts everything on pause, that diverts people's, you know, normal routines in one way or another. God knows what the hell it is, weather, cyber attacks, earthquakes. That's what I'm thinking about October surprises these days. So I'm glad we're on the same page. That's what I'm waiting for, a shoe to drop.
Yeah, and maybe we won't be able to get ice. Let's see what happens with the longshoremen. It could be. I haven't checked the news in the last 5 or 6 or 7 hours, so I don't think they've resolved it in the last little bit. But you know, I'm expecting a Black Swan event. I'm expecting a black swan event. That's all I can say. And I hope you guys, I hope everyone in the Quite Frankly family has at least, at the very minimum, a week's worth of supplies. When things are nasty, you may not want to be out in the streets. And if you live in a free state like I do now, the state of Utah, there is a Second Amendment for a reason. It makes for nice neighbors.
Yes, it does. It does. And you have to keep things like that in mind. I know that there's already because of this labor strike, I know that there's already a lot of places that are out of paper goods. Everybody went to go hoard toilet paper and paper towels again. I've heard about that in some locations. But as a businessman, what do you think about this overall? I don't see. I had a call last night. Someone say that this strike was all about standing up for the country because nobody else would, that it was a national security issue. And I listen to everybody's point of view on things, but all I see from the outside, I don't see anything about longshoremen's involvement in security measures. Everything that happened since 2002, it's mostly Coast Guard, Customs, DHS. But we have the percentage of, we have the wage demands, and we have the resistance to automation. Those are the main things here. Have you dug into this at all? Anything you can add to the mix?
Well, first of all, they always talk about how we have to compete with China. You can just go and Google, or if you're like me, use DuckDuckGo, or go on X Twitter and look at the videos of how China processes and moves things in their ports. They're fully automated. They're not people driving and taking these things off. They're forklifts and robots and people sitting behind the desk with joysticks doing this stuff. So they keep talking about how we need to compete on a global stage and we can't have these things with China or what have you. China is automated, and it's kind of like being, it sounds harsh, but technology moves things forward. It's like the car is coming out and everyone is trying to protect the livelihood of the farriers, the people that would change the horseshoes. Like that's going to be a niche industry, a niche service. It makes sense to automate these things, because if we automate them, then technically it should drive the price down, because that service of offloading the things from the ships could be done at a lower cost. Therefore, shipping and moving costs would come down, and all the other aspects that go into the pricing of our goods. So as an economist looking at it big picture, well, moving to automation would be good for the consumer. But of course, things aren't that simple, because we're not moved by the invisible hand. We're moved by baron bankers and fiat currencies and central banks and what have you. But in theory and in principle, they're fighting a fight that is ridiculous and is actually going to hurt the consumer. Now, of course, I've seen people that are union members and they're MAGA people, and they're like, we're fighting big business or whatever. That's fine. But what really chaps me is we don't want automation. In other words, to the consumer, we want the prices to continue to be high, because we want to have inflated costs of delivering these goods to you or the warehouses to guarantee that we have a job. Sorry, Farrier. Buy yourself a car. Get off the horse.
Listen. That's what's really tough about this. I understand there's a lot of people who just want to go out there and work, and they want honest jobs. Where we're moving into this is a very transformative time in our history. Here's a comment that I got from the audience. Part of what they're asking for is the port not to automate processes currently performed by union workers. That's a losing argument. Automation allows for significant cost savings that trickles down to consumers. We can't keep living in the past, and neither can they. But I got to say, this is me talking now. I get I get when you got a collective bargaining agency there and you want a little bit more of the pie, you think it's time to renegotiate a contract and you want more pay. every once in a while people get, they get raises. You work at a YMCA, you get a scheduled raise. So I understand a longshoreman, a personal trainer, you want to be able to be confident that there is going to be some kind of upscaling for you in the future. But they're asking for 77% increase, which is enormous, to be able to match what is going on, what's being given to people on the West Coast, even though the cost of living on the East Coast is far less. And then you have the timing of the strike a month before the election. And I gotta say, I'm sorry, but the chief, this union chief over here, this mafioso-like tone.
Mafioso.
The tone that he struck with the promises of crippling the U.S. and having everybody else laid off, that does not leave a good taste in a lot of people's mouths. And then on top of it all, it's the fighting of automation and technology. It doesn't sound reasonable to me. But, I've had people say, no, Frank, it's about national security and what is inside of those bins. It's about human trafficking and this and that. I said, well, then why isn't anybody talking about that more openly?
They're not making that point. I mean, my beef is not with, look, the unions do what the unions do. You join a union so that they do collective bargaining and they fight on your behalf to get you more money. So no one faults the union for attempting to do that. The guaranteeing of a job that may be obsolete, that as an economist, I don't like. And you're right. And then what was it? They asked for 77% and they came up to 40 or 50%.
And they said no.
So, it's kind of hard to get people on your side. The national security, if that were an issue, like you said, why aren't they making that argument? They're not making that argument. They're making the argument that we need more money because of the inflation, and we can totally get that. Even though, for blue collar, I would say 147,000, 150,000 a year. And then, Mr. What's his name? Daggett, the president of the union, making 700 and something thousand plus. He also makes another 200,000 as a president of his local union. He drives a Bentley. Nothing wrong with Bentleys. I kind of rather like them myself. Nothing wrong with that. But when you're representing the common man and making money off of the common man, and your union actually makes relatively good wages, not that you shouldn't make more wages or want to get a bigger piece of the pie from the corporation, they're not making the argument about human trafficking. And once again, we have the technology. They can scan, come on, infrared, that's tough. You can scan a thing and see if there's human bodies in there, right? We've had that technology for years. The technology would do a better job of sniffing out human traffickers, looking at a container that's supposed to be of grain, but you see little people huddled in like this, and they're giving you heat signatures of human beings. I think automation would do a better job than Joe the longshoreman. Well, I'm just saying that's my
no, and I have some stuff to read on that after the intermission. But because we're running out of time on this particular segment, let me just ask you this: I think at the very least we need. If I were to wave a magic wand, I would say I would love for us to stop importing. But then again, I know how we have offshored every major piece of independence that we can give away. We're giving it all away. James, if we were to reinvest in being self-sufficient, a powerhouse in everything from food production to energy production to electronics manufacturing to drugs, especially like most of our pharmaceuticals are coming from outside of the United States. We are so resourceful over here. It wasn't until a hurricane hit this past week that I realized that a little tiny corner of North Carolina contained some of the most precious natural resources that can fuel the future of the electronics industry. I didn't even know about the lithium and this world-class quartz reserves that we had in North Carolina in a little unknown town. I mean, you think about what this country is probably really capable of if you allow human ingenuity and true, industrial independence just run free without this regulatory red tape and everything else, and to keep things in country, stateside. How much importation do you think we would be able to cut down on if we can really reinvest in ourselves and pull away from the rest of the world?
That's a great question. Depends on how long the timeline is, right? So immediately. Obviously, it would take some time for,
let's
those
say
in the audience
15 years.
Well, if you could wave a magic wand, I would go back to that. If we could wave the magic wand, I would be comfortable with 75 to 80%. For those not aware, on your show, I'm an economist. I have a degree in economics, and I worked in that field. And I am I'm a capitalist. Like, I currently run or operate 5 businesses. So I love free markets. That being said, I'm not a total protectionist, but there are certain industries, and I thought that was great that JD Vance, bringing it full circle since we started talking about the debate, he mentioned that in the debate that, he said, I got 3 kids at home and our medicines are made. Why is China, not even talking about fentanyl, which is also killing us, and that is a CCP plot. Why are the things that we are most dependent on, why are they coming from enemy states? That should not be the case. We're not El Salvador. We're not some small country. We're not Luxembourg with 600,000 people. We are the United States of America. We have natural resources up the yayo. We have intelligent, educated workforce. We have educated and skilled laborers. We have unskilled laborers. We have everything we need to be independent. And yes, if you want to buy that imported good, you are going to pay higher price. There will be tariffs. But there are certain industries that absolutely we should not be beholden. We shouldn't be beholden for chips and technology and electronics in this day and age. We should not be beholden to them, definitely for pharmaceuticals, especially look how big pharma is here in America. They've got a monopoly. They got an oligopoly. If we can get rid of that, then and bust that a little bit, then we could have a lot more. Plus, we do have, labs that can do compound, and they can create other products for us. There are certain things that just should not be manufactured, and we should not be beholden to other countries. Energy, pharmaceuticals, military, anything that has to go with our defense and military. I would be comfortable with if we got 65% of our goods were manufactured here. And for those of us who want that Siemens product, who want that German engineered product, we can still have it because we believe in free markets, but we're going to have to pay a little bit more for it. I'm fine with it.
What it comes down to for me now, with everything you're talking about there, what's the real ripple effect from that? Yes, you're talking about an influx of unbelievable amount of wealth, stability, and lower prices for everybody here at home, lower overhead for everybody here at home. Obviously long-lasting, stable jobs and all of that. I can see that, but pulling 65% away from what has been now given to the world, that the world has become very used to having, where so much of America is showing up in Indonesia. It's in China. It's in Vietnam. It's all these other places. I mean, it's as delicate now a situation on a globalism scale, because this is beyond globalization. Okay.
Yes, but as an American, as President Trump, as American president, as we as Americans, we love our brothers and sisters. Trust me, I have now visited 50 countries of my fellow human beings. I am not responsible for them. I am responsible for my family, my community, my state, and my nation.
I'm with you. Absolutely. And this is the hook. Globalization is natural. That had, just like you said, you have everything we need here at home, but there is a wide open international market. You want some German engineering, you go and get it. Globalism is this forced welding of all of us together in an inescapable, matrix. That where, okay, well, now if we start doing the reasonable things and reinvesting in our situation here to make to dig ourselves out of the hole that we're in, then we have to be burdened with the blame for collapsing Vietnam's fragile economy or something else because we pulled away all of our manufacturing from Mexico or whatever the hell it is. I mean, that's just what it's always about. It's almost like these government programs that are made that are completely unconstitutional. They should never be put out there. But once somebody gets something for free, once they get used to having it there, then taking it away, even if it's the right thing to do, you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy, exactly. And it's never enough. Well, James, I know a lot of people probably still don't know that you are doing most of your work on Rumble and elsewhere. So let them know how they can follow all of your work. Go ahead.
I'll make it very easy for them. It may not be me. It may be a clone of me that looks exactly like me, whose name is James and has a show with the initials BCP. But there is a show here on YouTube. It's a daily show, which is going to have a lot more content in the going from here forward. It's called Basic Core Principles. Basic Core Principles. It is a new YouTube show with my clone is running for me. And then you can also catch me at bcpextras.com. bcpextras.com. Actually, if you go to bcpextras.com, you'll see everything you need to see. But on YouTube, just go to Basic Core Principles, and you will. That'll be the easiest way to find me. If you're on Spotify, my show is on Spotify. Just go. It's the same as my old channel, Black Conservative Patriot, the BCP podcast. But if someone's watching this on YouTube, they want to stay on YouTube, just go to Basic Core Principles on YouTube, or look for me on Black Conservative Patriot on Patreon, or actually on any of the major podcast platforms. It's on all the major Apple, Google, iHeartRadio. You can find the BCP podcast.
Thank you. Well, listen, this is great. Basic Core Principles. Fantastic. I didn't even know it was there. I'm now subscribed, and let's get you on again sometime around the election, then right after, and we gotta keep company, especially during the holidays. I think we're going to need to keep each other nice and cheery and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
No, my pleasure. Much love to the Quite Frankly podcast and everyone out there. I can't physically give it to you, but feel me going through the camera with zeros and ones, digitally going through and giving you a big old hug, which is now stronger than it used to be because I got a little bit more muscle.
That's it.
Just feel that from me.
That's it. I can feel it. I feel it. Thank you so much, James. Have a great night. Send the best to the family.
Will do. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Okay. Well, that was fantastic. It's great to catch up with him, and we'll have to do it more and more. All right. So listen, we have a lot to do still. A lot to do. And let me just tell you something else there too. Because I had to look into the longshoreman situation, and especially the national security, because all I see is about 77% increase in pay that they want, and the resisting of automation. Now, the old ways are not always the best. Okay? But from a national security standpoint, this is just the evolution of business. I mean, keeping things locked in place with artificial controls usually makes the issue worse. And voting being paper-based, yes. Stay traditional with voting. Stay traditional with currency being backed by precious metals, yes. But I find it hard to resist the rise of robotics in manual labor industries. I just, as from a projecting it down the line, where we tend to come into it, whether it be maintenance, whether it be working alongside the robots, whether it be in the control room, obviously there's always going to be new ways that an industry reshapes itself. It just happens. It just happens. But I mean, I looked into this because I remember around 2002, right around 9/11, right after 9/11. Our ports were really starting to come under scrutiny. How well inspected was every container that was coming into the ports? And we realized that not much at all. First of all, here is from, what is it? This is the AAPA, Essential Resilience Unit. This is Seaports, American Association of Port Authorities. This is from September of 2006. 5 years after 9/11, U.S. ports more secure than ever. Progress must continue. I don't see a lot here about longshoremen, though. The Coast Guard, Washington, D.C., media relations, major accomplishments since 9/11. Implemented the MTSA of 2002 and spearheaded the International Ship and Port Facility Security Code. Developed area maritime security committees. Increased oversight of vessel security. Implemented international port security programs. Completed port security assessments. Most of this is going on with the Coast Guard, with Customs, with DHS. Now, there's a lot of things that cargo scanning technology. Customs uses large X-ray and gamma ray machines radiation to screen cargo. This is as of 2006. 24-hour rules. Under this requirement, a ship's cargo manifest information must be provided 24 hours prior to the sea container being loaded onto the vessel in the foreign port. Custom Trade Partnership Against Terrorism was enacted. Screening and inspections. Customs and Borders screens 100% of all the cargo before it arrives in the U.S. and inspects all high-risk cargo. That was in 2002. They started putting it in there. Then I looked into this here, too, and I got this from, what the hell is it? This is from the American Journal of Transportation, AJOT. Container inspection, an unsolved need. This is of July of 2021. United States, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, physically inspects, this is with all of the technology they have and the manpower, about 3% of ocean containers, 24% of truck containers, and 90% of rail containers. The CBP also uses risk-based analysis and intelligence to pre-screen and examine 100% of suspicious containers. Canada, the Border Services Agency over there, examines about 4% of their containers. They pretty much do profiling and stuff like that. European Union, as of 2021, 1.5% of all cargo arriving to the EU ports are scanned. Shipping containers are inspected to ensure that they are clean, free of damage, suitable for the types of goods being transported. So, I mean, I look at this and I see, how do you do that? It's going to be a lot of technology. You see aside from the fact that there's still a need to maybe cut down on imports, be a little bit easier for a smaller staff to be able to look through all that with a little bit more of efficiency. Could be a blanket inspection instead of using all the profiling that they do to just identify the higher risk ones. But it's just the timing. And I'm all for people going out there and getting a raise. I'm all for it. I'm all for people going out there and just advocating for themselves. Going for a yearly review, presenting their case or leveraging whatever the hell they got going on in one company to get what you want in another one. I'm all for it. Collective bargaining on your own, for yourself or as a group, I get it. But this guy, I don't know, man. To say that we're going to cripple you, to say to hell with the construction workers that will get laid off, this and that, it just doesn't sound very, I don't know. If you're fighting the man, then why are you promising to kill the little guy along the way? It just doesn't come off well. All right, really quick break with the intermission. And when we come back, I want to jump into some true crime stuff because you're going to like this. It's some strange stuff. I think Frank Zell will be calling it at some point. Don't go anywhere. We got to it's like 2 minutes so I can go and refill my water over here. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be great.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button.
Quite frankly.
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 Quite frankly, guys.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
So everybody watch. Quite frankly. With Frank.
Quite frankly.
How dare you?
And that there's always going to be a need for being able to process things that come and go in our ports or any country's ports, shipping and receiving around the world. But whereas that is always going to have a need, the technology to be able to facilitate that and be able to inspect things, I mean, this is just the natural way of things. These are the natural booms and busts. These are the natural corrections. And what usually happens is that people that come in and they start lobbying to make sure that natural processes of the marketplace don't take place to lessen the impact of, or to lessen the pain of what is just, the changing of seasons. It's I don't know. We are alive at a very pivotal time in our existence. The digital age, you think about how quickly things have changed in the last 40 years. I mean, it is a very quick evolution. And it's going to continue on that way. It's going to be hard to resist some of it, and not all of it is bad. Not all of it is bad. We'll see what happens with all this stuff. Maybe it gets resolved quickly. Hopefully it does. All right, let's see here. Now, I want to throw this out because I know any second we'll be talking with Frank Zell. So I'm just going to throw this out first. And this is the Buzbee guy. Take a listen to this. Here he is from yesterday, covered by Colin Rugg. 120 accusers have come out against Sean Diddy Combs with new sexual assault allegations, and they vow to expose everything. Texas-based attorney Tony Buzbee announced that he had a list of names that will shock the public. He also announced that he had video evidence of various crimes, including sexual abuse of minors. Here's some quotes for you. "We will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors. We will pursue this matter with no matter who the evidence implicates. Many powerful people, many dirty secrets, collected pictures they said they have, video and text. The allegations will include violent sexual assault or rape, facilitated sex with controlled substance, dissemination of video recordings, and abuse of minors." It's a long list already, but because the nature of this case, we are going to make sure, damn sure, that we are right before we do that. These names will shock you, he said. Here's a little bit of what of the press conference yesterday. It was like a 30-minute press conference. Let's see what's in this one.
The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward. Our team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us with people claiming to have been victimized by Sean Combs. After vetting, we now represent 120 individuals who intend to bring civil claims in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs, as well as claims against many other individuals and entities that we will name as defendants as we file these individual cases. And you should know, to the extent the clients feel comfortable, we also intend to make these individuals available to the authorities, specifically to the FBI. And you should also know a few of them have already been spoken to by the FBI. Now, before we discuss the nature of the claims and claimants themselves, let me comment on the large volume of calls we have received since our first announcement. Even before the indictment of Sean Combs, we had received a small volume of calls and had screened a handful of cases. After the indictment of Sean Combs and the announcement that we were pursuing these claims, the floodgates opened. People who wouldn't otherwise, for a variety of reasons, are now stepping forward to make their voices heard and to pursue justice.
Now, let me just say there, this is a very specific case, very consequential, and we've seen things like this before. But that phenomenon right there, that phenomenon that he's describing, where there can be so many thousands of victims out there, and the perpetrators so few, but the victims on individual bases, they don't really know about each other. Their entire world, on an existential level, it's all about you. You are the center of your world. That is the vantage point from which you see everything going on, And if you can't really assess just how much company you have as a method of self-preservation, you usually just shut up, you clam up, you tell maybe a couple of very close people just so you can get it off your chest and not go completely insane, especially if you're dealing with a very serious trauma. But it's almost like us right now on a larger scale. I always say it's great, even though we have been long since accustomed to not getting justice. It's great every once in a while that to witness things, to be a part of things that give us a better understanding of where people's minds and hearts are. It's almost like a beacon goes out to the whole world. We're saying, hey, we're here. We all see it. I'm glad to know that we're not alone. That is a very, very, that's almost as important as being able to build a fire in the wilderness and just have that warmth. And, you know, how morale boosting a fire can be when you're camping or in a survival situation, the warmth, the light, that kind of a thing. It's almost like you get a boost that not all is lost. Even if the system is crooked, if you don't have too much faith in it, the fact that you can put you can rest easy that you're not alone, that goes a long way. And as you can see in situations like this, it makes people a lot more bold. And that's great.
But no, most of these people are scared. They fear backlash in their communities. They fear backlash in their own families. They are afraid of retaliation from the perpetrators and their associates. They are rightly afraid for their own personal safety. I expect that through this process, many powerful people will be exposed. Many dirty secrets will be revealed. We know what we are potentially up against. And as is always the case in situations like this, when a celebrity is involved, people can be downright mean and nasty. You would be shocked at the length fans will go, no matter the evidence to the contrary, to defend celebrities they love.
Oh, I know. Sam Harris. Well, you know, one of those gleaming faces and names, a brand of left-wing intelligentsia. Doesn't matter if there was a pile of dead children found in Hunter Biden's basement. He was never going to vote any other way. Oh, we know. I understand. Here's Jaguar Wright, singer. Now, this is, you know, there's a lot of people out there who say, okay, well, where was everybody? Obviously, there's the fear factor there. There's isolation. It's hard. You know, you do want to live the rest of your life. If you can, you want to live a long life and enjoy being alive. You know, we get this one trip around the universe, and you don't want it to be cut short for something like this. But this woman has been around for a while. Jaguar Wright, she has been out there screaming about this into the void. People like her have been out there. She was on Piers Morgan. I don't know when. I saw this clip today. I think she was on, I don't know, within the last couple of days. Take a listen to her.
How many victims potentially do you think there could be?
Thousands. I've talked to hundreds that I deal with still myself.
And she zeroes in primarily on Jay-Z. And
I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well.
Jay-Z and Beyonce.
They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim
Keeping
Porter?
people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane.
Dude, bringing up Aaliyah. I remember the Aaliyah funeral. I was actually working at the radio station, and the funeral was going on. Because she got buried right on Seacourt Road in it's right over there in, what the hell is it? Off Exit 4, Hartsdale. But that's huge, and of course I know a couple of people have already said it there too, because you remember that tweet from Sia that everybody said it was code for "I've been kidnapped. They kidnapped me." Like, was Sia really kidnapped? Like, what was this? As far as the kidnapping, the torture, the mind control, the sex slavery, holy shit, man. Oh, we're like on the brink here.
Unconscious. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, Pierce.
Listen, like I said, Jay-Z and Beyonce are not here, unfortunately, to respond to that.
I know. I'm just being honest with you.
No, you're perfectly entitled to your views, obviously. Kim Porter,
yes.
A new book claims that Diddy may have been involved in her early death. What do you think of that?
I think people should really look into that more. I am friends with Albie Shore. I love him. I love his children. I knew Kim. We used to all hang out together at the Kit Kat Club back in the mid-90s when Diddy was first starting his reign. I watched that whole thing happen. And everything that Albert has been through, every attempt on his life that has been ignored by the authorities, it all leads back to Diddy. And everyone knows it. The wiretapping of the phones, putting AirTag on children during visits. These are normal practices that these people do.
Jaguar, I've got to leave it there. I really appreciate you joining me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for caring.
I do care. Thank you very much. Well, I'm joined now by the host of Vlad TV, DJ Vlad. DJ Vlad, I mean, it's pretty horrifying listening to these testimonies. What did you make of what you just heard?
Well, Jaguar Wright is known to be a conspiracy theorist. I don't really co-sign anything that she says. I've never had her on my show, and I don't have any plans to have her on my show.
You don't believe her?
Good job, Vlad. We're all very happy for you. Nice beard, freak. Anyway, there's that. Now, we got a few minutes left. Well, I'm wondering where Frank Zell is, because I want to do this next piece with him, as far as what's going on in Kentucky. This is huge. It's very strange. Take a listen. This is from the Courier Journal from yesterday. Amid questions about motive, court sees footage of Kentucky judge's courthouse shooting. Hold on, here he is. Frank, you there?
I'm here, Frank. What's happening, buddy?
It's good to hear from you. I'm glad we're going to be doing this next. First of all, what do you think about the Buzbee stuff? Anything that has caught your ear? I mean, it's all very out in the open right now. But where do you think that's heading? You think that we actually might get disclosures with this story as opposed to Epstein? Is this a little bit more likely than Epstein?
Well, I mean, for those that don't know who Tony Buzbee is, he's the attorney that's also handling the women that are making the allegations against Deshaun Watson, the quarterback for the Browns. His firm is handling the Watson case as well. He's handling all those women. So, you know, this is what he does. For him to come forward like this, he must have some pretty good evidence. Now he says he has video, text. You know, we have to wait and see. What makes me nervous, though, if we're going to see disclosures or not, is when he talks about it's not just like movie stars, it's businessmen. You know, in the pharmaceutical industry. He mentioned that industry. I think another industry by name as well. You know, maybe this is going to be like a pass the hat time through intermediaries. Say, hey, your name, you know, we got your name, we got you on video. You know, time to put some money in the hat. They pass the hat. They come to a settlement. The people get paid, and we don't get disclosure.
Every once in a while, it seems like the tree shakes out all the loose leaves, and
we get a little bit. I mean, we'll get a little something, but everybody's thinking that we're going to get like, oh, it's going to be all the rappers, everybody in Hollywood, this and that. It's not going to be that.
Well, listen,
it never is.
we got this. This feels like the excitement that had popped up. I mean, obviously we had Epstein in 2019. his arrest and everybody looking for Ghislaine Maxwell and shit like that. But then there was also in 2017 with Harvey Weinstein, the whole Me Too thing. While that was going on, other people were like, okay, well, there's a lot of people going to giving testimony before Congress. We thought for sure that this was going to impact people around Harvey Weinstein because, again, someone like that isn't able to just do what he does because he's just one man that everybody is just so in awe of. I mean, you're always connected to a network, but that didn't go anywhere. That didn't go anywhere.
It never does, and everybody gets all excited all the time. You can hope for the best, but you have to, prepare yourself for the worst and not be extremely disappointed if you don't get any information out of this. Would I be shocked if a month from now there's some kind of deal made and everybody signs non-disclosure agreements and these people get paid their money and they keep their mouth shut and we don't learn anything? I wouldn't be shocked at all if that's the case.
Well,
this guy's looking. I mean, this guy is supposed to get. This is why he does what he does. He gets paid. He's looking for a payout. You're not going to get nothing from Diddy when the government gets stuck with him. So you're not going to get paid there. So you're looking for the other people who either witnessed the events and did nothing, or took part in the events with Diddy. There's no way they're going to release that stuff, publicly. I just don't see it.
Well, I guess we're going. There's so many things happening at once, Frank. So many things happening at once. I'll tell you. Let me see. Oh, so now let's get to Kentucky, because you brought this to my attention. I'm just going to read this with you. Here we go. Amid questions about motive, court sees footage of Kentucky judge's courtroom shooting, with former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins in court Tuesday. Attendees at the hearing over the killing of District Court Judge Kevin Mullins saw footage of the shooting and heard testimony about the motive. The video clip was less than a minute long and did not include audio. In it, a man identified by police as Steins, that's the sheriff, is shown firing multiple times at the judge behind his desk and leaving the scene. Supporters of the judge cried in court as the video was shown. I saw the video. I'm not going to show it here. Steins, who last week entered an initial plea of not guilty, has been charged with murder in the death of Mullins, who was shot and killed in his private chambers on September 19th inside the Letcher County Courthouse in Whitesburg. Kentucky State Police Detective Clayton Stamper testified the full video shows Steins using his own phone to make multiple calls and then using the judge's phone to make a call, and then the shooting followed that. This is where it starts getting weird, Frank. In testimony, Stamper said that the calls were to Steins' daughter, the shooter, the sheriff's daughter. The phones have been sent to forensic teams for examination, Stamper said. Though his daughter's phone has not been examined, Stamper confirmed Steins' daughter's phone number had been saved in the judge's phone and was called before the shooting. The two men went to lunch earlier that day with multiple other people, Stamper said. The detective said that witness said that at one point Mullins asked Steins if they needed to meet privately. Okay, so the judge asked Steins if they should talk privately, though the context was unclear. Stamper said witnesses are still being interviewed. But here we go. Stamper added that Steins was mostly calm when he was interviewed after being taken into custody. Basically, all he said was, "Treat me fair," the detective said. When asked by defense attorney Jeremy Bartley whether Steins said anything about protecting his family when he was taken into custody, Stamper said Steins allegedly made a comment that "they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid." After the hearing, that quote right there, "they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid." After the hearing, Bartley said more information will come with the investigation. He declined to speculate on a motive. Here's a quote: "I left the hearing today with a lot of questions still unanswered myself. We hope that there might be light that will be shed on the preceding events." Now, I don't know how you want to come up with this, because there is a lot of weirdness around this, especially when the use of, as you have said on Twitter, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid. It's not so much about just, you know what, just report on this a little bit and let everybody know what you've been paying attention to, please.
Okay, well, I mean, first off, when it happened, I was following the case, and, you hear a judge is shot. All right, it happens. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And then you hear that this sheriff he turned himself in almost immediately after the shooting. People have to understand, it is extremely rare for an active duty cop to shoot a sheriff. The last time this has happened...
To shoot a judge,
I'm sorry. Yeah, to shoot a judge. The last time this has happened was the 80s that I can recall. And that was over, I think, it was an estranged husband shot a woman judge, I think it was. But that was a long time. But it rarely happened. So that made me wonder what the hell was going on. And then just the background on these people, they were friends for many, many years, maybe 20 years or more. Before he was sheriff, he was the bailiff for this judge. So these guys knew each other extremely well. So the town, Whitesburg, is like devastated. It's one of these small towns. Everybody knows everybody. You have the prosecutor's office has to recuse themselves immediately because they know both people, so they can't be involved. And in the hours before the shooting, even the hours before the lunch in the morning, they were together. He was in the courthouse with the judge. People said he was fine. Then they go out to lunch, and you mentioned it. That I think was the start of it. Was when, because it was a group of people, so everybody's talking, and these two people are probably sitting next to each other, having their own conversation, and somebody overheard something the judge said. And that's what I think it was. Do we need to talk about this privately in my chambers? So I think whatever happened started there. Then they go to the courthouse, into the judge's chambers, and for whatever reason, he asked for Mullins' phone, Judge Mullins' phone. Judge Mullins hands it over to him. Yeah, I watched the video too. Now, they didn't show that. They just showed the shooting yesterday in court.
Yeah.
But they did not show the exchanging of the phone. And it was right after he tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone. So that's red flag number one. What the hell was Judge Mullins' phone? Why was Sheriff Stein's daughter's number saved in the judge's phone? Now, I know the daughter, I can't find the age yet. I don't think she's of legal age because she spoke to the police with her parents. So that would make it seem like she's under the age of 18. So let's say she's a teenager. Why the judge has her number saved? Would that be enough to enrage him to shoot him? I don't know. I don't think so.
Somebody commented on one of your tweets about this about 24 hours ago. Said, I'll go out on a limb and say whatever Mullins was doing, the judge was doing, he would never be prosecuted for it, and Steins made sure that justice was served. Just a guess, though. You think? I mean, that could be. I see you say that there's validity to that assumption, but of course, there's just so little information about this, and then again, there's the use of that pronoun they. It's not about.
Oh, that's huge.
That's huge. It's not he. Mullins, the judge, was doing something involving my daughter, but he's talking about, we got this quote about the wife and the daughter being in some kind of danger from a group of people. That's what's the implication here.
Correct. And this guy is not some whack, unless he suffered some kind of, there's only two options here. One, morning he was fine. They go out to lunch, he was fine. They go back to the chambers, and then he suffers some kind of psychotic break and shoots the judge. That's excuse number one. Or excuse number two, there's something very wrong going on in this sleepy town, and the judge was involved with it. Maybe the sheriff was involved in some way, shape, or form, or maybe he was a victim, or his family members were victims. But there's something very wrong with that town. And, you know, just watch how the media portrays it. Oh, tiny town, such a nice little community, 1,700 people. They're devastated. They're devastated. Nobody's asking the right questions. People should be digging under every rock for a motive. Now, in the days prior to the shooting, there's a civil lawsuit going on in which Sheriff Steins is one of the defendants in the civil lawsuit. His deputy, Deputy Fields, was involved with a woman who got in trouble with the law, and she was trying to get her ankle bracelet removed. And he made a deal with her in exchange for sex. I'll help you get that, that ankle bracelet removed. He was having sex with this woman in Judge Mullen's chamber. This is what's in the civil lawsuit. Now, doesn't say that Judge Mullins knew anything about it. And Sheriff Steins, he's being sued civilly for, not properly supervising. Anytime you're in charge, you're the one that's going to get sued. So they didn't fire him quick enough. That's what he's getting sued for. So he had just testified at a deposition in the days before the shooting. So there's that weirdness. Doesn't say anything bad about Steins or anything bad about the judge. But something's going on there, because if you take the sheriff's statements, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid. He pled not guilty.
I know.
Even though he just straight up walks up to the judge, clips him, takes 2 steps, sees him moving, shoots him again, and then the other part they didn't show was when he got to the door, he turned around, looked again, and shot him again.
Yeah, no, I did.
So he shot him several times.
Yeah, well, I hate videos like that. I really do. It's so morbid. But at the same time, you see a guy who's acting very deliberately. Again, you're talking about there's the long relationship there, professional and personal, that spans decades. And you say, okay, well, was there a psychotic break? Where did that come from? But when he was acting, he's acting very deliberately. Comes back, finishes the job, and then when it comes time to go and face the music, he just asks to be treated fair, pleads not guilty, as if there's a sense of righteousness in what he knew he did. So there's some, I don't know. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, because if there are any updates, I'm sure that they can't fail in being very intriguing. Especially since here we have another small town, and we know that small towns can sometimes be the creepiest when it comes to stuff like, you have a keen eye for picking up on. So listen, I have to get off in a couple of minutes here. Anything else you want to leave us that you've picked up along the way? I have not had a substantive conversation with anybody about what's been going on with Eric Adams in New York City, because Sal Greco has been in North Carolina. Any of the stories, like, from New York to North Carolina, anything, raise a red flag for you?
North Carolina, I disagree with BCP on the government. He said it's a bad political move. I'm saying, from their standpoint, the position they're in, they're just trying to, just have the media not cover it as much, because you know how the media works. If they don't report it, it's like it never happened. So,
but again, why not? When, of course, the media is a one-trick pony with stuff like this. That it's all about the urgency to fight the climate. Even from that I mean, they give attention to things like this all the time, but they just only give a certain kind of attention.
Well, I don't know how old you were, and okay, so this is 20 years ago, so you're probably in your early 20s. How did Katrina work out for the Bush administration?
Yeah, not well.
It didn't matter. It did not matter what they did. They were destroyed for it. So I think that's what they're looking at. They're looking at how that went, and they're like, just, have the media just move on to the next story, let it blow over. let the locals handle it, and they're just trying to ignore it. Either way, they're screwed. They would take heat no matter what they did. This is purely from his political standpoint. If they tried to help, they would get ripped for how they helped. You're a month out of the election. This is what you want to deal with?
Yeah.
No. So they're just like, pass that by. And as far as Eric Adams, you telling me that, Diddy goes down and then the feds go after Adams? I don't know how these two are connected. Adams, everybody knows that he likes to party with he's a playboy. He likes to party with the rappers and the stars. He likes to hang out at the nightclubs till wee hours in the morning with them. He was doing that when he was running. He's been doing it for years. He hasn't even stopped when he was mayor. You telling me he doesn't know Diddy? Yeah, he knows Diddy. So Diddy goes down, and then they get Eric Adams for the typical mayor crimes. Kickbacks, airline tickets. They're going to keep all the bad stuff. Now, I'm not saying that Eric Adams was involved in doing anything at Diddy's parties, but you're telling me a guy that hangs out with rappers wasn't hanging out at Diddy's parties or wasn't invited? It'd be silly to think that of it, because that's what Adams did. That's what he does. But so the feds, they get him on the regular nonsense with the airline tickets, wire fraud, the typical stuff that mayors do. But yeah, this administration, they cannot get out of their own way. How corrupt? When the school chancellor gets caught up in this, how corrupt you got to be when you're the school chancellor? What are you grifting there?
Dude,
what's
everything.
your grift?
Everything is a skim. There's a skim on every small little seasonal budget for textbooks. There's a skim on everything, and it's just. It doesn't matter how small the budget is. You give a budget to somebody in some school system, some little rinky-dink school system in bumblefuck somewhere, and just give it 5 to 7 years, and there will be a major multi-million-dollar scandal. Somehow.
Yeah, I guess you're right. At least in the record books, Mayor Dinkins was probably the worst New York City mayor that I can remember. He literally just flushed the city down the toilet. His policies were horrible. Adams is the worst. Well, not only did he make New York City worse, his whole administration and himself are corrupt. And who knows what else they would do. But anyway, I know you got to go, Frank.
Well, listen, I appreciate this, and we have to keep up on it all, because this is only the beginning of that Kentucky story, and I really want to know the resolution of that, and I hope you're well, and I'll talk to you afterwards.
You got it, Frankie. Have a good one.
All right, take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, it's 8:51 p.m. I'm going to skedaddle, but I'm not going anywhere. If you guys go over to quitefrankly.tv, or if you go to the Matt Christensen channel on YouTube, we're going to go live there. I'll be on for about, 30, 40 minutes. I'm sure we're going to take some pot shots at Tim Walz and have some fun with the debate and anything else. So you might hear some things, some thoughts that I've already thrown out there tonight, but it's just going to be good to hang out with friends and do a little cross promotion and all that. So let me get to these super chats. Jay Britt says, happy October, Frank. Truly the macabre season. No doubt about it. The Right Stuff 7 on Rumble. The Soul Rumble rant says communists aren't people. Well, they have a hard time being civil. Isn't that true? And to everybody on quitefrankly.tv, powered by Pilled. Thank you, guys and gals. Sometimes all I have are gold pills to read every night. Censored Abe. Thank you, Uncensored Abe. Thank you so much. Witchy Poo says, happy birthday to me. Oh, happy birthday, Witchy. Just sent her something nice. Doug Simmy, Delona, Joe Elaine, happy birthday, Witchy Poo. Yes, and here comes the Witchy Poo cookies. Delona, cookies. Robert Sarnes with shades. Delona, Witchy, and Awake Not Woke. Thank you. Tennessee TCB says, Frank, happy hump day to you and BCP. C. Blanche, thank you. Braves Piano says, thank you, Frank, for having on James tonight. Delona, thank you. Again, it's a whole bunch of wonderful people just deluging me with gold pills and cookies and all that stuff. Happy birthday. And there you have it. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to see you in just a little bit. If you're on quitefrankly.tv, don't go anywhere. John Carroll's going to be picking up on the engineering side of things. He's going to be syndicating in the stream from Matt Christensen. When I pop off of there, that is when the after hours programming is going to kick in. I think we have something like that classic appearance between Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock on Rogan from like years ago. I think it's one of those classics. Talking about Rabbit Hole Wednesday. It's all, ancient civilization, good stuff. Thank you so much for the time, ladies and gents. I'll see you in just a few minutes. No. Always do this.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Will you shut up? No.